Okay, in this video, I'm really just documenting my kind of crypto analysis thesis, what I see going on, so that at some point in the future, I'll look back on this video and see how things turned out. But I've been in crypto for a while, um, probably got into it back in 2020-ish, towards the middle or end of 2020. Right around the pandemic, COVID. You had basically in March of 2020 this huge drop in crypto and the stock market, the economy, all of that had a V-shaped recovery to basically boost it right back up. And we went to all-time highs later the next year in Bitcoin. We had a big rally up in April and May of 2021, slight pullback, and then a cycle top, which was almost just like a double top in November of 2021. So I've been in crypto for this whole ride, even the ride down in 2021, 2022, basically for a whole year almost, late 2021 into late 2022. And I was starting to understand more about the crypto cycles and technical analysis, also just understanding the accumulation phases, the distribution phases, when volume and volatility slows down, and just kind of what to look for when there's potential reversal. And I was actually in this area here, which would have been start of 2023. I remember buying some Bitcoin right around here. I actually have, I remember looking at it when Bitcoin was like 16,000. It's like, oh man, could it go any lower? And at the same time, I was looking at Elliott Wave and seeing how, these patterns could be Elliott Wave patterns, even though some people were calling this part a, 5-wave structure here. It looks kind of awkward and weird, but to me, it looked more like an expanded flat. If it was, then this area could not come into the price territory over here, which it did not. It held up this Fibonacci level of 0.5 as well. So a wave 4 typically goes to the 0.382, but usually never closes below that 0.5 level, which it held up. So that stayed in line, making me think that this could be a wave 5 for, the next cycle top at some point. So looking at this, I think we get a new cycle top by the end, which will also be an all-time high for Bitcoin and crypto some point before the end of the year. So I've been following it along even through this journey. It's like, okay, we're uptrending. I was doing some buying through here, had a nice run up into March of 2024, great pullback here as well. And now we're right here where we've gone up, created all-time highs for Bitcoin. I mean, we're all the way down at 16, all the way down under 16. And now we went above 100,000 for the first time in Bitcoin just a few months ago. So kind of crazy to think how far it's come and even how long I've been in this game. But I remember even back a couple years ago, I was like, I'm not selling this crypto for the next 3 years, just because actually it was in May of 2022, I believe, that I made some buys. And I was like, I can't sell this until, another 3 years. And I ended up selling some of it just because I needed to. But also still made some buybacks down here around 22,000. So continued to buy at different points on the way up, but really just waiting for this blow off top and understanding, well, when is this going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is it the top over here at 100,000? Because technically, if you do the inverse of this wave 4 right here, one of the targets is the 1.05 level. Actually, sorry, 1.05, but the main one is the 1.236, which it hit right here. So I was like, could this be the top? Certainly could. So we'll just have to wait and see. But we're getting this retest basically of this this resistance, what was resistance, this all-time resistance of all-time highs for the last 2 cycles. And we're getting a bounce off of that. And this week in particular has been huge for a lot of markets, but especially for crypto, because this is really setting up to be the start of like this blow off top that I think we're going to experience over the next year or so, 9 months to 12 months. We're seeing that with these candles that are putting in these engulfing candles. And a lot of times you'll see that right before a reversal. And we have some on Bitcoin. We have some, but what was interesting is that there's been a catalyst this week. Specifically, it was around the pause of a tariff, really aggressive tariffs. And it almost seemed like the tariffs were a way to scare the market and bring a lot of uncertainty and fear into the market to drive the prices down. Just to pull up the S&P, the S&P went on this crazy sell-off. Basically right around here, I believe the tariffs were announced. And I mean, it sold off. I mean, from its top all the way down to the bottom, you know, it went into bear market territory, just barely, but definitely correction territory. And this was putting a lot of fear and uncertainty into the market. People were not sure exactly what was going to happen and hadn't seen levels like that since the pandemic back in 2020. And we also have this death cross coming. Just notice that, which the death crosses don't always actually end up being a super bearish thing, but it can. But a lot of times I've seen where it actually reverses to the upside just because it's like this opposite reverse psychology type of thing. But anyways, the pause of the tariffs happened this week. These aggressive tariffs, the pause happened this week, a 90-day pause. And that allowed the markets to relieve themselves. And that's where you got this candlestick right here, this very bullish candlestick, which if we're looking at the weekly chart on Bitcoin, you could see how earlier in the week, I mean, this candle is showing it. We're still in the current week, but prices were down. Prices were going to continue to go down, but then we got this reverse. So it literally made this huge wick right here. And I know this definitely got some people who were looking to short Bitcoin in, but then the quickly reversed, grabbed all of that liquidity. And I think now, as I've mentioned already, we should be going to see a new top, a new all-time high. And what's also been interesting with this is understanding the rotation of money in these cycles, because Bitcoin typically leads the way, as it has been. But at a certain point, money, investors will rotate out of Bitcoin into the altcoins. And I'm wondering if right now is almost that time, because if you were someone holding Bitcoin and accumulating down in here, were you someone who bought in, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and now that Bitcoin reached 100, you got a 3 or 4x, 5x return on your money. And so now you're going to take that and rotate it into the altcoins that haven't quite had its run up yet. If you look at Ethereum sure has gone up along with Bitcoin. Starting in 2023, I mean, it's definitely gone up, but Ethereum has kind of just been underperforming. And if you look at the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, you see that it's had times where it's gone up and outperformed Bitcoin, but recently it's just tanked, and it's almost put in like this super rounded. It almost looks like it's planned, like something is like out, like design. It's in design that it's doing this, but it is coming to a critical level, the 0.889 on the Fibonacci level. So Ethereum hasn't really outperformed Bitcoin. In fact, it's actually done quite poorly against Bitcoin. So is now the time that things are going to turn around for Ethereum? And usually Ethereum leads the way for different altcoins, or altcoins altogether. And this could be a really interesting time that money is going to be rotating into those, because a lot of these altcoins are now putting in these really strong weekly bullish engulfing candles. One trade I like a lot is this expanding diagonal pattern on render. And again, same thing this week, a lot of bullish news, but we also got the bullish engulfing candles with volume to support. And also we've got, that's put together this weekly candle right here, to where we're coming to this edge of this resistance part right here, but then we have a very nice consolidation. Volume has been declining, so that's on point. We got this bullish engulfing candle. We had one back here that was the start of this wave 3. We had one back here, which was the start of this wave 1. So when these show up on the charts, it's very significant. Doesn't mean that it always is going to turn into a big rally. You have to be aware of that and where it's happening. But when you see that, it's definitely cause for pause. Not only render, this one is very close. It actually did create that. We'll see where the week ends. But on Aerodrome, on stacks, look at that. Look how, man, that is a beautiful thing right there. Again, volume declining, solid zigzag correction pattern. This is like one of the best, if I'm right to my analysis in thinking about this in hindsight's 2020, right now is one of the best times in this cycle to get in. This is where your risk to reward is really strong. This is where you're getting in at some of the best prices, and when potentially smart money is getting in. And you have it near areas of support. Potentially. This technically could go lower, but you also have these zigzag patterns. Some are still waiting to kind of make their move, but many of them on the daily time frame have put in these weekly, if they close where they are or higher, then they already have these weekly bullish engulfing candles. Same thing with artificial superintelligence, Alliance. This is putting in a really strong one. Caspa, which was one that I had put a video out a while back and said, like, hey, people think it's going to continue up here, going past this ascending, this contracting triangle or diagonal pattern, ending diagonal. It's going to go down. They thought it was going to continue to go up and break up, which it could, but I was like, no, it's going to come back down and retest. It's got to go further. And that's exactly what it did. But now it's putting in this bullish engulfing candle as well. Many of these are seeing really strong green candles. This one here, helium 10, what looks like a cup and handle pattern as well. That one's been waiting. Flow. Oh, and many of these have the Wyckoff accumulation pattern going on as well. So with the Wyckoff accumulation pattern, you would have this last sign of support, a selling climax, or I forget what this is called, initial support, I forget, but then a selling climax, then secondary test, I forget what these are called, but those are resistance points, secondary test, and then you have the spring, which usually leads to a bullish move that breaks the upper bounds of that trading range. And I've seen that on multiple charts. I just got to find each one of them. But Flow has it. There'll be some others that pop up. But again, overall, just looking and analyzing each one of these and understanding where they're at with support and just kind of what's happening in the macro as well. Like DGen even is bouncing off support level. It actually it went to the 105, which actually tells me this could be a flat pattern instead of a 1-2, which I initially thought. But this whole thing is a flat pattern, and I don't have, see if there's a chart that has more data. No. Let's see. That seems to be the best one that has the most price history, unfortunately, but we could assume maybe that this is a flat and this could continue up. Can't really tell exactly where this would have started, but it could definitely go up from here. See a coin as well. Very nice. Very nice impulse wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then followed by a zigzag. This is like textbook, and it's coming back right to, the 786 level with that bullish engulfing candle. So these are very, very potent levels to get in, especially with these weekly candles that come in. They don't come in all the time. So you have to pay attention to them. And when they show up, understanding where they're happening on the chart. Are they at levels of support? Are they at the end of a correction, of a wave? All of that stuff is really important. And so I believe that a lot of times the markets will dictate where price goes, but then the macro and the fundamentals, and there's a catalyst that supports the charts. And they kind of work hand in hand, because I do believe one of the things too is with global liquidity. There's a lot of people talking about that online. The global liquidity is a leading indicator for Bitcoin, as the correlation is really strong, but it's on like a 75 or 90-day lag. So when Bitcoin, when the global liquidity is going up, Bitcoin goes up, but just on a 90-day lag. When global liquidity goes down, Bitcoin goes down, but just on a 90-day lag. And we're right now at the point people have been offsetting that global liquidity and overlaying it on their charts. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but they're overlaying it on their charts, and they're showing how Bitcoin is right at the point. It's at like that lag, that 90-day lag period where global liquidity went up. And so now Bitcoin should also be going up. And it's almost scary how on point it is. So I do believe that the markets understand that. And it's almost like the past couple of weeks with these tariffs and driving fear and uncertainty into the market was to drive it down, price down, in order to liquidate and create liquidity for the smart money to come in and buy it up right before price goes up, according to the global liquidity indicator, which is on a 90-day lag, which is crazy if this all works out. But I mean, you just look at all of these, VeChain as well. This one, this week, I almost saw how some of these diagonal patterns are somewhat like Wyckoff accumulation patterns, but just they're slanted upwards because of the bullish nature of the underlying asset, where normally everything is flat and that trading range is flat. In this case, it's expanding in the upwards direction, where you have, this would be that, initial support. This is the selling climax, which creates the lower bounds of the trading range. Then you have, which this kind of also indicated the upper trading range. But then you have another test here and here, and then this breaks that lower bound of the trading range. And this is where you would get a turnaround for that spring. And again, a lot of times, this happens here and it's flat before it comes out, retests the upper bounds of the trading range, and it continues on. Same thing can happen here, where this just goes, tests, and keeps going up, during this cycle. So that's totally something that can take place. I just had looked at that one day and was like, okay, it's basically the same structure, but just it's distorted in a different way, and it's actually distorted in a more bullish way. And there's some of the patterns on the cryptos where it's distorted in more of a bearish way. And that maybe just explains more of the sentiment around it, or at least how investors have been trading it. This one here, this is a beautiful pattern as well. If it plays out like a 5-way pattern, proportions look really good. 1, 2, 3, 4. so far on Polygon, waiting for that fifth wave to come in. And even inside of that three wave, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beautiful subdivision of an impulse for that wave 3. And now we're coming back for that larger wave 4 to that 0.382 level. And we did get that break right below it. So that might have drove in some short sellers, and maybe people had their stop loss right there. So now smart money is able to come in, grab that liquidity. And if we do get a weekly close above that, I guess we don't have to. But if we get some bullish price action, which we have on the daily time frame, we have a wick, and then we have an engulfing pattern, engulfing candlestick, and prices continuing to go up, like that will be a turnaround point. That'll be a pivot. And that point right there on the chart is a really potent place to get in. I mean, that's the best place you could get in for this entire crypto since February of 2021. Like, and from a time perspective, I mean, you could maybe argue that this, went up really quickly, but this could also go up very quickly. And the targets for this would be the 1.236. We talked about that on Bitcoin. That's a 30x. It also could go to the 1.68 level, which would be, close to 100x, which is ridiculous, but it is possible. It totally is possible with some of these cryptos. This is another one where the Wyckoff is kind of showing, but it's a little bit distorted. So it's not that flat on the bottom, but a little bit on the top. Again, that initial support, selling climax, automatic response, test, spring right here. Comes right below this. If you want to draw that a little bit more flat, you can. I just had this trend line in here as well, but came below that flat trend line, breaking below the trading range. But then soon you'll see, well, there's a few things happening before this, but then we'll see a breakout the upward side of the trading range. So it's showing up on something is showing up on a lot of these crypto projects. Even for this one, I was waiting for this to have a little bit more of a sideways correction. Maybe it does something like this, not sure, but this could be it. Coming back to that 50-week moving average, XLM. This could also be putting in bullish candlestick patterns. We do have a couple. We have a wick and then a bullish engulfing candle. We'll see how the week closes on that one. But I think that this one could run in this larger this triangle pattern, ABCDE triangle. I mean, that's pretty clean. I mean, and that's been going since January of 2018, which was the top of like the quote unquote 2017 cycle peak. And so it hasn't made new all-time highs since then. It's gotten close. May of 2021, that wasn't even the cycle. That wasn't even the time of like the cycle top. It was November for Bitcoin, but in May it went up. So earlier than when Bitcoin made its top. But then you also have this run up here that was end of 2024. And so if we have a target for this one, it would be somewhere around $9-ish, $8 to $9, but it's totally possible that this could break out. I mean, that is the continuation pattern. Measuring from the top of this, the bottom of that, and putting it right up at the point of the last pivot low, the E in this chart pattern. That gets you there. You can even move it up top. I was being a little bit more conservative. I mean, that could be, 25, which would be crazy. It'd be 100x. My goodness. But it's possible. It's totally possible. It could happen this cycle. It could happen at some point in the future, but just paying attention to what's happening and trying to get in at the best possible times. VeChain, I love that's got that weekly candle. And so there's plenty here that we're looking at. Here's another one with Wyckoff, selling climax, automatic response test, another test of that upward. Here we have the spring ready in motion. We have bullish divergence. I mean, it's very interesting. Even on some of these kind of meme coins, you've got price action showing a wave 1 down for wave 2 through the zigzag. Now these are coming back to very potent Fibonacci levels. This is a 618, the golden pocket, getting this weekly bullish engulfing candle on it. So some of these are letting me know, like, okay, well, people are rotating into these altcoins. And when that's happening, that is the next stage. Let me see if I can find that. There was a graph that people were posting maybe a few months ago. Yeah, here it is. So let me pull this up. Got it. So altcoin, path to altcoin season. As we mentioned, phase 1, money flows into Bitcoin, prices surge. I mean, that happens early. So like even over here, this would have been the start of 2023. Money's flowing into Bitcoin. Money flows into Ethereum, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it. This is where we could currently be. We've been in this phase 1 for a while, but this could be the start of where we get this overlap of phase 2, because Bitcoin has struggled, or Ethereum has struggled. And you could see that in the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. I mean, it's just, but this could be a very potent place that it turns around, a very clear place that it's going to turn around. But yes, Ethereum, especially in this cycle, has struggled against Bitcoin. And I think at the same time, this money flowing into large caps could also be happening almost in the same time as this phase 2. I don't think phase 2 is clearly defined by Ethereum only in this cycle. So in other words, I would think that maybe phase 2 and 3 are combined, just because Ethereum hasn't had its own time to shine, whereas some of the large caps are somewhat outperforming. Like Solana is actually performing better than Ethereum. So Ethereum may not be that only second to Bitcoin altcoin like it traditionally has been. Said another way, Ethereum has traditionally been the second to Bitcoin, but in this cycle, maybe some of the other large caps are actually taking the place of Ethereum. So this phase 2 and 3 might be happening simultaneously, or some of the other large caps have now taken the spot instead of Ethereum. So we haven't gotten to this third phase yet, but I think money is flowing into Ethereum and the large caps right now. So here where it's showing money flow, boom, and money flow, boom. And alt season is when money flow is flowing out of large caps. This could be much later in the cycle. Still have some time to go with this. But then this is after some of the large caps have had their blow off tops, and these mid and low caps are just pumping. Like it might be one every day or multiple every day that are just going parabolic, because money is flowing out and pumping up these other ones and getting people to buy in before ultimately the people who flowed into them when they were low have now exited. And retail and people who are greedy, as far as the fear and greed index, they're on the greedy side, are looking to already take 100x crypto and try to get 200x out of it, even though that was the top. So I think it's interesting for even myself or people to get in on some of these that are, poised to go. I mean, this is a super low cap right here, this PAL AI, but great narrative in the AI space, but great wave one, zigzag pattern, very clean, bullish engulfing on the weekly time frame if it closes. Like, and then we're looking at targets where at least wave three, if this is a wave one and wave two, then wave three is going to be at least, in most cases, the length of wave one. That's a 50x. That's crazy. So like, I'm just, again, recording this video because I think this is a significant point in time to where I want to be able to document what I'm thinking right now, because in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, I think the market will be in a much different place. And my belief and hypothesis is that it will be a lot higher than what it is, or it will have gone a lot higher than what it is. And it's interesting for this moment in time, for this window of 1 to 2 weeks to be getting in on some of these cryptos at the prices and at the levels that they're at right before things really take off. And there's multiple things contributing to that on both sides. So from the bearish direction, it was the tariffs, but then letting up on the tariffs created more relief. But then you have global liquidity coming in. That's going to help support the market. We also have different economic factors like the rates being cut, factors around that, quantitative easing, printing money. If all of those things start to align, then it's going to push the markets up. And again, this is a very potent place to be getting in. And it almost seems like the markets are dictating it, but then the outside world that creates the catalyst for it all to happen, and sometimes vice versa. So I want to believe that I'm right this time. I want to believe that the amount of hours and days, the amount of hours that have equal to days and months of screen time is going to pay off. And it's giving me better insight. It's giving me the right vision to be able to see what is going on, where there's opportunity, and also understanding how important this window of time is, and how to basically approach the charts and to make a return. I mean, to get some sizable return, and for some people, make life-changing money. I mean, for some people, including myself, to just to be real about it. But it doesn't happen by chance. I mean, there's definitely people who do that by chance, but if I can understand how and why and not just have success by accident, then it allows me to repeat it. So I'm documenting this just so I could evaluate at some point in the future whether or not I was right, whether or not something else changes, or maybe it doesn't do what I'm thinking, but that maybe some other type of event happens that causes it to sidetrack, whatever the case may be. But this is just good practice, I think, in understanding, good practice in being able to evaluate what the hypotheses are. And I'm rambling. But in other words, being able to see kind of how your work has progressed and be able to track whether or not you were on the right track. So, gone on for like 30 minutes with this, but I'm very, very bullish right now in this moment. I believe that Bitcoin is going to create new all-time highs. Many of these altcoins will follow. I've been looking at this, tracking this, and this is actually interesting. It's like I knew this. I mean, we still could go lower, but this is almost how I felt around this area right here, where this wave 4, I was like, man, it could not. To bring it full circle, I mentioned this at the beginning, but for this to be a wave 4, it cannot go below that 5 level. I was hoping that it would go it would come to the 382, but it went a little bit lower. But if this was a wave 4, it could not go to the 5 level. And I should have known, I know now, but like, okay, if this was a expanded flat, is going to be a little bit longer. So it probably would go to that 5 level, not just the 382. Just looking at the proportions of each one of this wave, A, B, and then C. So it would have made sense that it would have come down to the 5 level. But I was like, man, it cannot go past. It cannot go past. And of course it held up. And also I feel the same way about this area right here in this 50-week moving average, with this resistance that turns support. And, you know, with those tariffs and the market selling off, it was really tough. But again, I think that was almost by design to create liquidity for smart money to come in, buy, and everything's going to be turned back on. Everything's going to be changed over the next few months into like this bullish sentiment. That's when retail is going to come in, buy it all up, while smart money is rotating out into some of the other large caps, altcoins. And then once that goes on for a little bit, then we'll see the whole thing crash again. And when that time comes, I'll make another video, and I'll also look to see how I could actually benefit and profit from the market going down. I think that I've been learning a lot about that too, just kind of some chart patterns, what to look for with volume, and then also understanding how important the economic landscape is, the fundamental analysis is in relation to this. It seems like there's always a catalyst, even though the markets are doing what the markets are doing, but there's a catalyst that's created in support of that. So I'm going to look to see this cycle, how that can happen as well. I mean, we kind of saw it in the sell-off here, right? Boom, this bullish or this bearish engulfing candle underneath of average volume. Boom, got the sell-off. That's one of the patterns I've been looking at. Same thing over here. Boom. So anyways, I'm gonna wrap up this video, save it in a good place so that I can come back and view it. But I think we're about to take a ride.